As they come home, we must serve them as well as they've served us. That includes giving them the care and the benefits they have earned, which is why we've increased annual VA spending every year I've been president. And it means enlisting our veterans in the work of rebuilding our nation. With the bipartisan support of this Congress, we're providing new tax credits to companies that hire vets. Michelle and Joe Biden have worked with American businesses to secure a pledge of 135,000 jobs for veterans and their families. And tonight I'm proposing a Veterans Jobs Corps that will help our communities hire veterans as cops and firefighters so that America is as strong as those who defend her. Which brings me back to where I began. Those of us who've been sent here to serve can learn a thing or two from the service of our troops. When you put on that uniform, it doesn't matter if you're black or white, Asian, Latino, Native American, conservative, liberal, rich, poor, gay, straight. When you're marching into battle, you look out for the person next to you, where the mission fails. Where you're in the thick of the fight, you rise or fall as one unit, serving one nation, leaving no one behind. Now, one of my proudest possessions is the flag that the SEAL team took with them on the mission to get bin Laden. On it are each of their names. Some may be Democrats. Some may be Republicans. But that doesn't matter. Just like it didn't matter that day in the Situation Room, when I sat next to Bob Gates, a man who was George Bush's defense secretary, and Hillary Clinton, a woman who ran against me for president. All that mattered that day was the mission. No one thought about politics. No one thought about themselves. One of the young men involved in the raid later told me that he didn't deserve credit for the mission. It only succeeded, he said, because every single member of that unit did their job. The pilot who landed the helicopter that spun out of control, the translator who kept others from entering the compound, the troops who separated the women and children from the fight, the SEALs who charged up the stairs. More than that, the mission only succeeded because every member of that unit trusted each other. Because you can't charge up those stairs into darkness and danger unless you know that there's somebody behind you watching your back. So it is with America. Each time I look at that flag, I'm reminded that our destiny is stitched together like those 50 stars and those 13 stripes. No one built this country on their own. This nation is great because we built it together. This nation is great because we worked as a team. This nation is great because we get each other's backs. And if we hold fast to that truth in this moment of trial, there is no challenge too great, no mission too hard. As long as we are joined in common purpose, as long as we maintain our common resolve, our journey moves forward, and our future is hopeful, and the state of our union will always be strong. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
And so ends the President's third State of the Union address. Might be considered an opening statement for the President's re-election campaign. Election day just over 40 weeks from tonight. The speech was a combination of the president taking credit for accomplishments and making proposals. The president took credit for ending the war in Iraq, killing Osama bin Laden, trade agreements, the fall of Muammar Gaddafi. One of the principal proposals he made was that no family making $1 million or more should be allowed to pay less than 30% in income taxes. Bob Schieffer, our chief Washington correspondent and anchor of Face the Nation, as always, is joining us tonight. Bob, what did you see in the speech?
Well, I think it was very much an election year speech. He laid out the themes and what his campaign is going to be about. Obviously, the most controversial thing is going to be this idea of making everybody who makes more than $1 million pay at a 30% tax rate. That's the reason a lot of people in the White House would be delighted to see Mitt Romney get the nomination for the Republicans, because they could just use him as the face of what they will say is a very unfair tax code. Republicans, of course, will take the opposite tack. It was very much in line with a lot of the State of the Union speeches that we hear, Scott. You get the flowing and soaring rhetoric at the inaugurations and when presidents say goodbye. State of the Union messages are a lot like this one we saw tonight, kind of a long list of things, some of which are doable and some of which are probably just thrown out there so he can say Republicans wouldn't cooperate. I thought it was just generally the kind of speech you hear at the State of the Union, not better than or not worse, pretty much an average kind of speech that we hear.
Very early on in the hour and 5-minute or so speech, the president threw down the gauntlet to the Congress, who said he intended to fight obstruction with action, referring to the Republican leadership in the Congress. Nancy Cordes is our congressional correspondent at CBS News. Nancy, the president threw a brushback pitch. I wonder how that's going to be received.
Well, Scott, he didn't browbeat Republicans to the extent that they were expecting. So in that sense, this speech was not as aggressively political as they had been predicting. But I'll tell you, the central theme of the president's speech, economic fairness, as Bob just mentioned, requiring wealthy Americans to pay more in taxes, is just a complete non-starter among Republicans on Capitol Hill. In fact, Speaker Boehner accused the president today of what he called the politics of envy, pushing this theme, dividing the haves and the have-nots. And you'll also hear Indiana Governor Mitch Daniels address that when he gives his Republican response coming up.
Norah O'Donnell, our chief White House correspondent, is there on the White House lawn tonight. And Norah, I wonder, the president will be taking this message on the road, as they typically do.
The president hits the road tomorrow for a 3-day, 5-state official trip where he will talk about many of the policies involved here in order to push them further. But look, this was an election year State of the Union. This is an incredible opportunity, according to the president's advisors, to reach tens of millions of Americans. And by looking at this very flawlessly delivered, carefully crafted speech, you can tell that the president was trying to reach independent voters who will ultimately decide this election. So he was at some points reaching out to cooperate with Republicans while digging in his heels on his agenda and trying to set the agenda for this upcoming campaign, setting up this very issue of fairness, of income inequality, so that he can draw a razor-sharp distinction with the Republican that he plans to ultimately run against. He doesn't want to necessarily run on his record as a referendum on the economy, even though the president talks about 22 straight months of job creation, but he is picking a fight with Republicans on the very issue of taxes and fairness.
Bob, the president seemed to be speaking often to Republican-leaning independents in the country. He captured a number of Republican themes in his speech.
Oh, I think he did, and used Republican language that we're often here associated with Republicans. But basically, the Republicans are going to try to make this election a referendum on Barack Obama and his presidency. presidency so far. John Boehner said today, you know, he's going to talk like this is his first year in office. He's been here 3 years. We want to hold him accountable for that. That's what they want the election to be about. He, of course, wants it to be, as he is saying, fairness, and he's going to try to base it there on what's ahead and what has to be done now in the years ahead.
The president didn't say very much about criticism of health care reform. He saved it for the middle of the speech. He didn't dwell there. He said that he would not be reversed on health care, but it wasn't something that he spent very much time on.
No, he didn't. There may be a reason for that. It's not very popular.
The president's making his way to the back of the House chamber.
Thank you.
And very shortly, after the president leaves the chamber, we will be hearing from Mitch Daniels, governor of Indiana, for the Republican response. One of the things that the president mentioned to the Congress was using a peace dividend from Iraq. He told the Congress that they should take the money we are no longer spending at war and use it to pay down the debt and do some nation building right here at home.